To fully comprehend the gravity of the Cuban Missile Crisis, we must first immerse ourselves in the broader context of the Cold War. The ideological and geographical rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union had cast the entire world into a state of polarization and relentless military buildup. The geographical proximity of the superpower spheres of influence had escalated this competition, and nowhere was that more palpable than in Cuba. As the United States and the Soviet Union vied for global supremacy, smaller nations like Cuba became pawns in this high-stakes game. The ideological battle between capitalism and communism had turned Cuba into a microcosm of the Cold War struggle. The United States had historically maintained a significant influence over the island nation, and when Fidel Castro's revolutionary forces toppled the US-backed Batista regime, the dynamics of the region were forever altered. Now, partners in history, let's dive into the rise of Fidel Castro. The rise of Fidel Castro, who came to power in 1959, marked a turning point not only in Cuba but in the broader Cold War narrative. Castro's revolutionary movement sought to rid Cuba of vestiges of American imperialism and exploitation that had characterized its history. The nationalization of industries and land reforms struck the heart of American interest, triggering alarm and hostility in Washington. Castro's regime embarked on a path of socialist transformation, aligning Cuba more closely with the Soviet Union's ideology and interest. The alliance between Cuba and the Soviet Union heightened Americans' concern about the spread of communism in the Western Hemisphere, intensifying the geopolitical tensions. The ascendancy of Fidel Castro and his alignment with the Soviet Union set the stage for the events that would culminate in the Cuban Missile Crisis, magnifying the anxieties and suspicions of the United States. The year 1961 witnessed a pivotal moment in the evolving crisis, with the ill-fated Bay of Pigs invasion. This covert operation orchestrated by the United States aimed to overthrow Castro's government. The failure of this operation dealt a severe blow to the U.S. credibility and demonstrated to Castro the lengths to which the U.S. was willing to go to remove him from power. The Bay of Pigs invasion deepened the mistrust between the two nations and further solidified Castro's commitment to the Soviet Union as a counterbalance to American aggression. The invasion was not only a military failure but also a diplomatic disaster, pushing Cuba even closer to the Soviet orbit. Against this backdrop of escalating tensions, the Soviet Union, led by Premier Nikita Khrushchev, made a strategic decision that would send shockwaves through the global stage. Fearing American aggression and seeking to establish a strategic advantage, the Soviets proposed a plan to deploy nuclear missiles in Cuba. This move aimed to counterbalance the presence of American Jupiter missiles in Turkey and Italy, which posed a direct threat to the Soviet Union. The Soviet decision to deploy nuclear missiles on Cuban soil was not only a military move, but also a calculated political gambit. It was a bold assertion of Soviet power and a challenge to the United States' dominance in the Western Hemisphere. The strategic deployment of nuclear missiles in Cuba marked a pivotal moment in the Cold War, setting the stage for a dramatic confrontation and raising the stakes to a perilous level. The Cuban Missile Crisis reached a turning point with the revelation of the U.S. intelligence discovering the construction of the missile sites on Cuban territory. Reconnaissance photos revealed the presence of Soviet intermediate-range ballistic missiles capable of delivering nuclear warheads to major cities in the United States. This discovery was met with shock, disbelief, and immediate action. The revelation of Soviet missiles in Cuba was a game-changer, with the potential to alter the balance of power and the strategic equation between the superpowers. This crisis had transitioned from a distant ideological struggle to an immediate threat that required swift and resolute response. In a historic televised event, President John F. Kennedy revealed the existence of the missile sites in Cuba and announced the initiation of a naval blockade, which he referred to as a quarantine. The purpose of the blockade was twofold: to halt further Soviet shipments to Cuba and to demonstrate American resolve in the face of escalating crisis. Kennedy's speech was a defining moment in the crisis as it marked the United States' official response to the Soviet threat. The naval blockade was a direct challenge to the Soviets and set the stage for a high-stakes confrontation. The U.S. response, embodied by the naval blockade, underscored the nation's determination to confront the Soviet challenge head-on and protect its security interests. Behind the scenes, away from the public eye, a series of secret communications unfolded between President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev. The two leaders engaged in tense and delicate exchange, grappling with the enormity of the crisis and seeking a way out of the dangerous impasse. These private conversations provided a window into the complexities of leadership during moments of crisis. Both Kennedy and Khrushchev recognized the catastrophic consequences of a nuclear conflict, and the imperative finding a peaceful resolution. The covert discussions between Kennedy and Khrushchev underscored the pivotal role of personal diplomacy in shaping the outcome of the crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis reverberated far beyond its immediate resolution. It served as a wake-up call for leaders on both sides of the Cold War divide, prompting them to seriously consider the catastrophic consequences of unchecked nuclear escalation. The crisis underscored the urgent need for diplomatic channels of communication and arms control agreements to prevent a repeat of such perilous situations. The legacy of the Cuban Missile Crisis has left an indelible mark on the world approach to nuclear weapons and international relations. It demonstrated the necessity of pursuing peaceful solutions and engaging in meaningful dialogue, even in the most dire of circumstances. The enduring legacy of the Cuban Missile Crisis serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of the global order and the imperative of responsible leadership to navigate the treacherous waters of international conflicts. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time as we continue our journey through history on Partner in History.